Yo, it's Andreo. What's going on, GMU Community? Today, you join me on the first installment of our tech podcast, where we're going to be discussing how will the future use and development of AI affect the current and following directions as their lives become more and more shaped by its uses. Now, firstly, I already think as a society we've already kicked the ball rolling with AI, and it's too late to turn around now. Now, what I mean by that is that AI is already so deeply implemented into so many things that we do. From probably our school uses it to do certain things behind the scenes, and that is with other things like I don't even know, but so many other things that it's already into. So instead of like it's too late to turn around and just be like, no, we shouldn't use this, ban it all, it's bad for us, all this. But instead of doing all that because it's too late, we need to make sure that we make AI work for us and benefit current and future generations instead of harming them in a way that that they're not as useful as they should be. Now, when you think about AI, you could probably already name a few things that it does, but if you don't, people know ChatGPT. You know what it does? It's a chatbot. You tell it what you want, it'll spit the answer right out. You know, you have, but also with this type of technology, there's also things like audio summaries. You can upload this podcast once you don't even have to be finished done listening to it, but you can upload this podcast, put the file into an AI, and it'll straight give you notes and give you all the key details of everything that I'm saying here today. So there's that. But also something when I was doing research on this, it didn't really cross my mind. But another thing that AI is heavily in is like Alexa on your phone, or not on your phone, but Alexa, you have the little speaker in your room or in your living room, say hey Alexa or whatever. That's AI. And then also like Siri, even before the update, that was pretty basic AI that was in there that will help you, whatever you ask Siri when on your phone, even before the AI update, the recent one that they just released, that was still AI. Another thing that AI does is algorithm suggestions. So, a heavy one that probably everybody knows is TikTok. That'll, based on what you like, everything that shit, it'll give you things it'll give you more things that you like to keep you on the app. So that's powered by AI, and even Instagram has similar things, YouTube has similar things, and even like streaming services like Netflix, Apple Music, all that stuff. It has certain AI that it'll give you what you want, all designed to keep you on that platform for longer. Now, these could be looked as like positives, right now, because it's all helping. But AI doesn't always benefit people. You could see it based on what I've learned here in this digital literacy class is, there's something called the America's digital divide, and basically I learned about this through a reading that we did for one of our assignments, and it was a Harvard study. But basically, there's a lot of places in I guess not for this case it's America, but a lot of for example, they use here that there was many zip codes that had, compared to like urban zip codes like us and then more rural zip codes like out the way, that we have a lot more people here using like the like registered internet users still in the big 25, and then people out there aren't using as internet as much. They just walk around with their cell service and that's what they got. They don't got Wi-Fi at home. So that's the thing. There's also like that can be tracked by the amount of like Windows users. You got Windows on the computer. People have home computers, or even on laptops, but that's not as much as out there either in more rural areas. This contributes to like people being more fluent in things. So ChatGPT, all the other AI things I told you, there's certain areas where people will be more, they'll know how to use it, they'll know how to manipulate it to work for them, and then other places people are falling behind and they're not really knowing how to do all of that. So AI isn't necessarily like doing this on purpose. I guess humans are doing this on purpose to themselves, but they don't really know it. AI is contributing towards this, like description of like different people knowing different things. Now, things like this, they can raise a couple concerns. And when I went around and asked our GMU community here of a few concerns they had about AI and its impacts of, how, I asked them the same question. I said, how you think future uses of development of AI will, affect our current generation, not only our current future generation, but also the future generations behind us. And, you know, most of the answers I received, they're all around like the same few topics. Most of them was about jobs, like future jobs, uh, education, and then just reliance. So I picked out the top three, like the ones I thought were the best worded, and I'm gonna discuss them here right now. So the first one I got was, how will AI impact education? Because teachers help teach feeling and emotion, and AI isn't really capable of teaching that. Now, when I heard this, it wasn't something that I necessarily had thought of myself, like before, because most things, you hear them, you're like, yeah, I thought about that. But this one I never really thought of. But AI can teach. You can ask it whatever. It'll tell you. It'll help you learn it if you take the information in the correct way. You're not just copying and pasting. But AI won't give you like, when you're talking to a human, you see emotion in their face, like their facial expression. You hear the tone of their voice. You see how they move their hands, their body language, all that. AI doesn't have that. It's just words that it gives you. So when you're talking to a teacher, y'all could be talking about something, a serious history event that happened, or something that is currently happening right now, and you can see the weight of the situation that has, about how they talk about it, all that, and it helps you really understand it to a deeper level. But when you're talking to AI, it doesn't really tell you that. It'll give you like numbers, statistics, just all that. But if you're just reading it, you'll be like, oh, whatever. But a teacher will really, help you understand that. And going forward, I think that could also cause a big problem, especially with like if AI starts to replace certain like teaching aspects. And as a course, this was discussed, but I think that like during the course, the course, this was discussed and touched on. But I think like as a society, we can really use AI to our advantage instead of using it to our downfall. That's the whole point of why I'm making this. So there's ways that we could do this. They can be explored. Certain ways, use AI that instead of you just keep it out of certain things. Your teacher's talking about something special, not special, but like something important. You have them do that instead of just giving, because some teachers, I know they hate AI, but I've seen this in my previous like high school. I'm like, why are you using AI? And then you come in and their whole slideshow is like, yo, what is this? But you just keep it out of the certain areas, and we can avoid that altogether. Another question I received, or a specific question I received about the topic of jobs, was, how will AI affect the job markets after we graduate? Now, this was important. This was one I thought about too. Even some that my friends thought about too. For example, I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, he's an accounting major. I was like, yo, when I was first like talking to him, I was like, what's your major? He's like, I'm accounting. I'm just waiting for my job to get taken by AI. And I was like, that's crazy that you're just here thinking about that already. So I know that this could be like a point of worry for a lot of people, and that's valid. A lot of companies, if you were to pay somebody 150K a year to do your accounting, a couple people 150K a year to do your accounting, or just pay a one-time 300K for an AI that will do all the accounting, would you rather pay the couple people, 3-4 people to do that, or would you just pay the one AI to get it all done? I know I would just pay the AI, but it is important because I think to solve this, schools and like a school like GMU and big like corporations, like top leaders, could work together to avoid that happening by really like pushing what they would want from an accountant, like for this example, So they could really like, because in real time, how in math you're taking a test, you're like, why I gotta do all this? In real time, I have a calculator. So it's like in accounting, like, why I gotta do this in real time? I have an AI. So to really like push that into the teaching, the AI is there so that the accountant knows how to manipulate the AI to do the whatever tedious task that could be replaced within a couple. Instead of taking them an hour or so, it could be done in 10 minutes. So moving that into like education so that people are more wary of how to do that themselves instead of like going to the thing and being just completely useless, not knowing how to do that. That could really play a big role in making sure that avoiding that, AI affects the job market in a negative way where people are coming out of college and, companies aren't really want to hire them because they're like, what do we need you for? Now, final question I got was, how will AI start to affect young people as they begin to develop a dependency? Now, I've seen this firsthand too with another one of my friends. We're talking, and they're like, "Hold on, let's ask chat." And I'm like, "Yo, are we serious?" And he pulls out his phone and asks whatever like we were discussing in chat. And I'm like, "Yo, we can't be serious." It's not like that's necessarily a real dependency. They're just using it as a outside voice. It's like we have a third person in the conversation. But I can see how, especially kids who might get into this at a younger age, like let's say like middle school, they'll be like, why would I want to learn anything? I can just ask chat, and then that's their whole. They don't learn nothing from then on out. And I think it's important we not like block it away to a certain age. I mean, obviously you can like keep everything from something from like everybody, but make sure that what we teach is not necessarily don't use AI, but use it responsibly so that it could be a tool. That's why I'm making this, so that it could we know how to use it as something to benefit us as a society and not just something that only certain people can use and that everybody else should just do everything themselves. You know what I'm saying? Now, moving forward, my suggestion with, how AI should be dealt with so that it affects our generation and future generations in a positive light is that like people in the education space and people in the workplace, like the industries, should work together so that I talk about this a little bit with the accounting, but like if you're going into a certain job and they know that like AI can be really useful and that it might be useful to a point that it can replace you if you don't know what you're doing, that they should be, over here partnering with schools and stuff so that AI and then the school's curriculum can align so that when you come out of your education, whatever 4-year, 8-year, whatever, you're not just a bump on the log like, oh, I know how to do all this by hand, all this, but you take a look at the AI and like, I don't know how to use this, and it's like starting all over from square one, But if we could integrate what they already expect you to know how to do and with what you're being taught, because sometimes I feel like in certain degrees, it's like you're learning a whole bunch of just not nonsense, but stuff that you don't really need to know. And that could be replaced by, a course where you learn how to use the AI to help you, and then you're really focusing on more bigger, complicated, concepts from which you need to know to then move into that field and be really successful in it. Now, going forward as well, you're gonna need to really be like focused on like potential negatives of AI. Now, especially in like education and in the workplace, there's bias. You ask it a certain question and they'll just read some random thing that they found, and you wouldn't really know what this bias is. And we talked about this during the course that AI is really what you give in is what it gives out. So it'll read something. You could give it like a paper or whatever, say, tell me what this is about, and it could be a biasful paper, and then it gives you biasful information, and you go report that out on a report to your boss, and your boss is gonna be like, yo, what is this? So obviously a human's like critical thinking skills are still gonna be important, and you're gonna wanna make sure that you're still practicing those. But that's another thing to beware. Bias and misinformation still goes hand in hand with that. It could give you could give it a full thing full of misinformation. It will report that misinformation right back out to you, and you will report that as your own work. And your thing is gonna be like your boss, whatever, who you're reporting to, it's gonna be like, yo, this is unbelievably wrong. What are you doing? And you're like, and you don't even know it. So that's another thing you should be, potential negative. And then we spoke on the over reliance, how somebody might just completely stop thinking for themselves and just have that as their brain and just walk around doing just existing, and that's something that we need to work on avoiding. Still having things that are challenging, especially like because I spoke about how the education and the workplace will go hand in hand, but still having things that are challenging that will still, as they're collaborating, still having like challenges put in place so that the person is still thinking about what they're doing, and it's not just mind-numbing AI, copy paste, all that. And that's the same thing with a replacement. I spoke about that. You gotta make sure that you are still valuable. You yourself are still valuable, and that you're not just something that can be replaced by AI. I feel like that's not really on AI, because obviously AI is going to keep getting smarter and smarter as it develops, but that's something on you, that you have something to bring to the table, that you're not just a worker. You know what I'm saying? You have qualities that an AI can't possess. We spoke about that with the like a teacher, emotions, all that. You have a good sense of like grounding, that right from wrong, and AI might not know. It might know right from wrong, but it might not know like it might just follow orders. It might not know biased from unbiased, but you know that as a person, and that can prove really important moving forward as AI threatens to replace certain jobs. Now, this is going to bring us to the end of this podcast. Now, we've already stated that this change here, the AI is here to stay. We can't get rid of it. We're too far gone now. But like I said, it's important that instead of treating it like it's an outsider, we should really welcome it and work towards making it work for us, instead of us eventually being replaced by it. Now, if you guys enjoy this little podcast here, I know it's a little short. I don't know, it wasn't that short, but some podcasts be hours long. But if you enjoyed the podcast, leave a comment, and maybe I'm gonna put the email in the bio. Submit some concerns that you have, and we'll talk about them next time we meet. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. Appreciate y'all. Yes, sir.